Hey everybody, thanks so much again to Sage and to the task force. The task force has been such a valuable partner to the Federation for so long. They were integral in our formation. Dan Hawes provided so much support back in the early days, so we really value that partnership and ongoing collaboration. Thank you. And once again, I have the honor and routine now pleasure of introducing our Executive Director, Toni Broaddus, who you've seen already. And so please join me in welcoming Toni for her final State of the Federation report to the group here.
Hello, everyone. And I want to just thank the task force for being brief, because I'm probably not going to be. I'm trying, but as you all know, one thing I like to do is talk and give advice, and so this is an opportunity the last opportunity that I feel I would have you all as a captive audience, so I'm going to take full advantage of that. So I just want to welcome you again. This is the 14th Annual Equality Federation Summer Meeting, and it's so great to see so many of you here, both old faces and new. And I hope you're already getting a sense, particularly new folks, of how important this meeting actually is. It's the heart of the Federation work, and it gives you an opportunity to meet with other leaders across the country who are facing the same challenges that you face every day, and doing the same really tough jobs that you are all doing in your states. So I hope you'll take full advantage of this week and go home with new ideas and new energy and new friendships to help support you as you do this work. So as you all know by now, this is my last summer meeting as your executive director. And I just want to acknowledge that it was a truly, truly difficult decision for me to make to leave this organization, because I still think it's one of the most amazing organizations in the movement. I have really learned an incredible amount, not just from this work, but from every single one of you. And I can tell you without hesitation that I have even more respect and admiration for each of you who do this work in the States and for all the work that you do than I did when I came into this job nearly 6 years ago. So wherever I go after this, and as some of you have learned, I don't actually know yet where that will be, I will continue to be an advocate for all of you and all of the amazing work that you do in the States. But as I leave for new challenges of my own, I'm surprised. I have a couple of things I want to share. I think this is going to be a real time of transition for the Federation in a good way. I think my leaving is an opportunity for you to think about how this national alliance of yours has grown over the past 6 years and where you want it to go from here. And so I want to share just a few things that I've learned that I hope will be really useful to you as you look to the future role of your Federation in the LGBT civil rights movement. So you may not all know, Equality Federation was actually founded in 1997 by leaders of state advocacy organizations who wanted to support and help each other do the really hard work of advocating for equality in the states. And those leaders met every year in summer meeting, and I can tell you, grown a lot over the years from those first few meetings, and I think we have some folks in the room who were actually at those summer meetings, early summer meetings. Can tell you probably some really good stories. I think we all have a few. But by 2004, the Equality Federation and the Equality Federation Board knew that we really needed to do two key things to strengthen our work in the states. First, we needed to bring more resources to state work and state equality organizations. And equally important, we needed to address the growing need for a coordinated national strategy for work in the states. This was critically important at the time, especially in light of the fact that we were all across the country getting hit with state ballot measures. So at our summer meeting in Austin, Texas that same year, Federation members adopted a plan to incorporate the coalition into a national organization and hire an executive director to implement the vision. We were all excited and very ready to move on this, and so at Creating Change that fall, we set up meetings with funders to explain our vision. We were really full of our vision and what we were going to accomplish, and we discovered that we were really the only ones who thought this was a good idea. In fact, to our surprise, most of the funders we talked to said, you're not going to get money for this. We're not going to fund you. We don't think this is a good idea. So, and many of you can tell you stories about that maybe as well. But for me, this is one of my first and most important lessons about Federation members. It's just really not a good idea to tell you all not to do something that you think needs to be done. So, I don't know, some 2 or 3 hours after that meeting, the Federation co-chairs offered me the job as the first Equality Federation Executive Director. And being a crazy Fed head myself at the time, I was like, sure, we can do this. When I actually started the job in January 2005, we had no money in the bank. We had no support from funders, and we were facing a lot of skepticism from national partners and allies. But we really knew that the Federation was an important idea whose time had come, and together we set about proving that our vision for this organization and this alliance could make a difference in the movement. So 6 years later, I believe we really have made a difference. Equality Federation is now a strong and respected movement organization with a place at the table for discussing strategy and how it impacts the states. And I'm pleased to report that I will be actually leaving you with $250,000 in the bank, so that's a huge. And about $1 million annual budget for our 2 organizations, give or take a couple $100,000. So. We now have anchor funders. We have really strong and great partnerships with funders and our allies. And we have had a significant and positive impact on movement work nationally. So those initial goals we had have continued to drive our work, and I want to talk to you a little bit today about those goals. The first one being to increase resources available to the states. So one of the first things that we decided to do together was figure out how to leverage the collective economic power of our state organizations. And so this was how our technology program was born. And for most of you, despite recent migration woes, which are being corrected, the technology program was really a key resource for most of your organizations because it's given our movement access to sophisticated technologies, tools at a fraction of what it would cost you if you had gone out and tried to. Many of our organizations would never have been able to afford this technology. And during the early years, we raised funds to subsidize that program, but one of my goals was always to make this program completely self-funding, so that no matter what happened with funding or the economy, we would always be able to offer this program, and you all would always have access to the technology that you need to organize, to lobby, to fundraise, to communicate with your supporters. So I'm also pleased to tell you that at the end of this year, by next year, the program will indeed be completely self-sustaining and it will pay for itself. So another great accomplishment. The other key role that the Federation has had in helping increase the flow of resources to your work in the states is really building relationships, strong relationships with funders and allies at the national level. This has been, I would say, a very interesting dance for me because I've tried to be really frank and realistic with movement funders about our weaknesses in our state organizations as well as our strengths, because I believe that it's really important that we as a movement work together to address those weaknesses and build on those strengths. And I think those conversations over the years have informed some of the really wonderful work that our funders are doing. And I'll just acknowledge Patrick Flaherty from Gill in particular, who's been really trying to figure out how to get more money to the states. And so we've seen things like the development of the State Equality Fund, which every year is bringing more money to your work in the states and is a key funding source for many of you today. But while I've been doing this work to increase investment of resources in the states, I've learned quite a bit about how funders and donors view your work in the states. And there's one lesson in particular I really want to emphasize to you today, because this has been really an important lesson. To attract investment in your work, you need to have a plan. And you need to have a written plan. And this seems like such a simple thing, and yet helping create those plans has turned out to be far more difficult than I ever anticipated. I think there are many reasons for this.